All right, everybody. Tom Kane back with Vile Maxim. So there's a lot going on. We have Israel bombing Iran. We have Trump waging war on the American people. We have a rumor going around that he was hiring people to show up to his parade. There's also some stuff that he may cancel the parade, claiming it's because of weather. Some are worried that it might be because of massive protests. He's issued a warning, a threat to American people that they're going to suffer incredible consequences if they protest his parade, which is insane. And you can't do that when you're the president. That's fascism, and it's here. It's here, live and direct. And to start with it, we're going to talk about Florida, and we're going to talk about their sheriff, Wayne Ivey, who basically got on, went on television and literally threatened American citizens with the most fascist threats I've ever seen in my life. Listen to this.
County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave. In our county, you're most...
Oh, wait, I think it needs to be refreshed. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Listen to this.
I'm going to break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail.
If you block an intersection, you're not allowed to block an intersection. The intersections that are taxes paved, like public intersections, you can't tell people that they can't block an intersection. Unbelievable. Fascism at its finest.
If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over.
Wow, man.
And dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If
you can't do that. You can't threaten to put people in the hospital at a protest for being spit on. You can't do that. He literally threatened people that they're going to go to jail if they get spit on. Wow.
If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail. And
now, that would be something that you could do, sure.
Most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on.
He's referring to California. And by the way, all of this is complete bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. I'm so sick and fucking tired of people saying that people were attacking police officers. The amount of it, the LAPD has issued a fucking public statement. The LAPD has issued a statement that less than 50 people were arrested in 3 days of protest. Less than 50 people, and only 60 rubber bullets were fired. 600. 600 rubber bullets. In 3 days. 600 rubber bullets and 50 arrests. In 3 days. 800 or so to 1,000 people protesting. And Fox News just kept playing that burning car over and over and over again and has everybody convinced that it's a fucking war zone in Los Angeles when it's not. It's not, and it never was. It's utterly ridiculous, and it's propaganda being pushed by the Trump administration. Rand Paul was just asked the other day why all these Republicans were insulting him on X, and he came out right out in the open and he said, the Trump administration takes tax dollars and uses it to pay people to say things bad about people on X and on social media. So our tax dollars are going to propaganda for the Trump administration to insult and damage the reputations of people that they deem fit. This is some serious Germany 1930 shit, guys.
Being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law.
Doing your jobs? You're not doing your jobs. Your jobs as the police is to protect protesters. You are supposed to protect protesters because they have a right, a First Amendment right, to be out in the street protesting against their government and things they don't like. And the fact that you think this fat piece of shit fucking sheriff in Florida, this fucking donut-eating puke, thinks that he could fucking say that I have the right to come and fucking beat you up if you spit, and I have the right to fucking and put you in the hospital, and we're gonna arrest you for blocking intersections that you as a taxpayer fucking pay for in the first place, the streets, the street lights. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Fuck Florida. And I'm gonna show you why I'm saying fuck Florida. Listen to this shit.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here on the Space Coast. I'm joined by a bunch of leaders that further exemplify why we are not and will never be California. This is Florida, the anti-rioting state. So I'm glad to be joined.
We will not ever be California. No, you're right. You're Florida. You'll never be California. Number one in agriculture in the country. We grow over 300 types of agricultural things here in the United States. You know who? We provide the entire country with 1/3 of all their vegetables. We provide the entire country with 2/3 of all your fruits and your nuts. Okay? Then to top it all off, California pays over $80 billion into the tax system of the country that we don't get back. That's an absolute stat fact. Okay? All you welfare people, all you people collecting food stamps and TANF, mostly MAGA people that act like it's everybody else, all you MAGA degenerates that live off the system, it's California taxpayers like me that fucking pay for your shit. You're broke. Your state's broke and poor. You don't have a good fucking state at all. You can't even afford your own education. You can't afford anything without the fucking United States government paying for it. California could pay for everything by itself. How about that? Texas actually takes more in expense than it pays into the United States. That's also a statistical fact. Okay, the biggest freeloader in the country. Florida, I'm sure, is a freeloader too. Okay? You want to talk about we're the most visited state in the country? We make the most money off of tourism of any state in the country. We're the 4th biggest economy in the world. In the world. We have the best weather in the world. And very proudly, we are the most diverse state in the entire United States. That's right. You can walk down the street in California and see every race. You can have an Armenian guy come pick you up in an Uber to drop you off at a Chinese restaurant owned by a guy who's here straight from China. And you could get out, walk outside, and then pull your car up. And when you get to the light, you'll look to the right and you'll see somebody that's like from El Salvador, driving a car right next to you. And then you drive down, you drive down, you go into a grocery store, you'll walk by somebody from South Korea, you'll bump into somebody from Russia, literally, we have everybody here. Literally everybody, all walks of life from around the world. And you know what? We live in peace. We live great. This idea that California is under siege and we're totally messed up. Yeah, we have a homeless problem. Okay. You know why? Because where do you think homeless people go? Where it's freezing cold or where it's gorgeous outside? You fucking idiots. Where do you think they're going to go? You people are so fucking stupid. You idiots that buy into this anti-California hype, you people are the dumbest people in the world. The reason why our property is so friggin' expensive here is because everyone wants to live here. Everybody wants to live in California. This lie that there's a mass migration and everybody's taken off, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I know people work in real estate here that they don't get a break from how many people are buying houses in California. The whole thing is a complete hoax. So this degenerate douchebag with the most punchable face I've ever seen in my life coming out and insulting my state. Florida's a joke. There's literally a television show on television called Florida Man that to make fun of Florida because of how many degenerates live there and meth heads and crack addicts. Deal with your own problems before you go on TV and insult my fucking state. Okay? You fucking idiots. Who are you to insult my state? Florida. What a fucking joke. Anyway, so Michael Bennett got really fed up today and decided to basically destroy Scott Bessent, who wants to basically go in front of the hearing here and lie in front of everybody about the state of the economy. What an absolute joke this is. Listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for coming in today, and thanks for having this hearing. Secretary Bessent, the last time you were here, I asked you about your emphasis on domestic discretionary funding in your opening statement. You had stated, quote, "We must adjust federal domestic discretionary spending to get our fiscal house in order while striking an urgent tone on our growing deficit." I mentioned to you then that domestic discretionary spending is only 15% of our budget. And I think if you were serious about deficit reduction, you might not push for tax cuts that almost certainly could not be offset by discretionary adjustments alone. And now, of course, we know you can't. Today, we actually have the details of your plan. Take health care from 10 million Americans, 126,000 Coloradans. Cut nutrition assistance for millions of adults. Sunset clean energy investments that are so critical to the American West. Give over 40% of the tax benefits of this bill to the top 5%. And it's not even close to being paid for. Even my colleagues on the Republican side, who for years and years and years have claimed to be the fiscally responsible party, now are admitting that it's not paid for. This bill adds another $2.4 trillion to our national debt. It will push the deficit to GDP ratio up to 7%, which you said when you were here before was unsustainable, far from the 3% target that you describe. If you look at your proposals taken together, there is no getting around the fact. There is no getting around the fact that the richest Americans receive an average tax cut of $300,000, which again, we're not paying for with the discretionary cuts that you advertise. So once again, we will have to borrow money in order.
Everything he's saying, by the way, in the big, beautiful bill is there. I'm actually going to be making a video at some point in the next couple of days going over the big, beautiful bill and actually reading it thoroughly to show everybody what's in it.
To assist
and explain it literally in detail.
The people in this country who least need a tax cut at this moment, while the Americans who have been made miserable by the economy that they're in actually see income reduced because of cuts to Medicaid and cuts to SNAP. Meanwhile, and I think, Mr. Chairman, this is really important, meanwhile, interest rates are at 20-year highs. Moody's has slashed our credit rating because of the fiscal irresponsibility of this administration. The World Bank has cut our growth estimates in half, and the bond markets are screaming at us to stop.
Jesus, my God, man. I didn't even know that. Wow. That's absolutely insane.
We now pay, and we are paying this year, more in interest than we are in the national defense. Secretary Bessent, how can you square your concern with fiscal health with deficit finance growth for families that need those tax cuts least?
Senator, I'll begin with that we did not We did not get here. We inherited this fiscal situation that I believe.
Well, you inherited from Donald Trump, who was here. You did, Mr. Bessent.
No,
yes,
sir.
you did, Mr.
No,
Bessent.
sir.
You inherited from Donald Trump. He's the first president to come back after a 4-year hiatus, after we know exactly what the last tax cuts did, which was blow a massive hole in our deficit and debt. You can't.
He's 100% right. Trump and what he did in his first 4 years is what caused all the problems that we're facing right now. And this is exactly the point that he's making.
Can't sit here and lie about that. It's true. The data, to coin a phrase, the data shows that that's the result. The math shows that that is the result. No one on this side of the aisle admits anymore that or claims anymore that they didn't blow a huge hole in the deficit. They did. And now you're here saying to the American people, let's double down on that. We're going to give tax cuts for the wealthy. We are going to give tax cuts again to the wealthiest people in America, and we are going to finance it on the backs of the sons and daughters of teachers and firefighters and police officers all over this country, because we can't pay for it. Because the Treasury Secretary discovered somehow that domestic discretionary spending is only 15% of the budget, and therefore you can't balance it there.
So what I want to say to anybody that might watch this is that, or might be watching, there is a certain misnomer that's out there. And what I want to say is this: when America says that we have a debt, who are we in debt to? We're in debt to people that had bonds. Okay, so America has something called treasury bonds, for those who don't understand this. And let's say 50 years ago, someone's grandfather had money and wanted to pull it out of the stock market and wanted to protect his money because they're a lot more stable than the stock market, and bought treasury bonds with his money. Those treasury bonds grow in value over time. So what creates the national debt is that we end up owing money back to people who have treasury bonds, because just because somebody dies with a bunch of treasury bonds doesn't mean that they disappear. Their children or their family inherit those treasury bonds. So there's a lot of money out there that's owed to treasury bonds that we don't even have. Now, the reason why that is and what creates that debt is because we're not taxing the rich. It's because we are not taxing the wealthiest people with a marginal tax rate. If you came to America, or if you were born in America and you started a business and you used America's system of business, of law, if you used America's, we live in a democratic republic and we have a mixed capitalism, or they basically call it a mixed economy, a capitalistic mixed economy. And the way that we have things set up here is, if you used our system to get rich, then you then too have to pay a tax back into that system so that money can finance the same programs, the same structure that allowed you to get rich in the first place, so that other people can get rich. It's kind of like that old adage that somebody climbed up a ladder and then kicked it over so that nobody can climb up after them. That's basically what it is a rich people who use the system here to get rich, but then get rid of all the ways that they were able to do it so that nobody else can get as rich as them, after they did. And that is a major problem. You got to pay taxes back into the system so that other people can have the same advantages that you, or the same, take advantage of the same exact systems that you took advantage of. And so when you keep cutting taxes from the rich and saying you don't need to keep paying back in, that furthers the debt. So if a bill says we're going to spend more and more and more than we've ever spent, also we're cutting taxes on the rich, more and more cutting from them, then you're basically saying we're going to find a way to spend even more money that we don't have, and we're going to find a way to make it so that we even get less money over the course of time to go back into cutting, which increases dramatically the national debt. So if anybody's listening to this and you're watching this, hopefully that'll help you understand that. Oh, I noticed some comments in here. That's why the show Cops didn't do or don't even have to leave Broward and Dade County. Oh, this must be because of the cops. Tell him, Tommy. I love LA. We are the prime example of the melting pot that this country is supposed to represent, and we do. And yes, we live in peace. It is beautiful. 100%. I love California. I love Los Angeles. Tired of the narratives. So anyway, back to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and his lies.
Well, sir, we had a referendum on November 5th.
You certainly did. I agree with
policies. Your side lost.
I agree with that.
And a higher decibel level.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. For those of you who are watching, please like and subscribe. If you like what I'm doing, please like the channel and please sub it. It always means a lot and it helps out the algorithm.
You're a Democrat who doesn't blame Donald Trump for winning. I'm sad he won. I don't blame him for winning. But don't come here.
Your statements.
Go ahead.
They have veracity.
Go ahead, Mr. Secretary. What?
Higher decibel level does not give your statements more veracity.
My statements are true, if that's the word, if that's what you mean by veracity. My statements are true. You blew a massive hole in the deficit.
Everything he's saying is absolutely a fact. Like, there's documentation, legal paperwork, legal precedent, legal documents that will back up data that, you could ask AI if you want to. You can even ask right-wing programmed AI like Grok if you want to. Everything that he's saying is a statistical fact.
When your predecessor was sitting here under Donald Trump, and so
all this administration does is lie and lie and lie and lie, and they just don't even have a single shred of dignity, no shame at all. They just lie about literally everything.
Question is, can't we think of something better to do with the money than this debt, than drive up interest rates by borrowing money from our kids so the richest people in America can get a tax cut when they don't need it? That is the reality of your plan.
Well, sir, actually the high interest rates were achieved during the Biden administration.
This guy is so full of shit. Oh, it's unbelievable. So another clip I want to play is Pete Hegseth testified before the House. And so Milky Cheryl, I really love this woman. She's so good. And she's always just very, very straight to the point. An excellent politician and a serious person, which we need more of. I really feel like we need a lot more serious people in the American government. We're starting to become a complete joke. But this is really interesting because he is Pete Hegseth is without a doubt the most incompetent Department of Defense we've ever had in American history. Pete Hegseth, everything from leaking military plans over public apps. This guy, his budget abilities, he's a moron. He's a Fox News reporter who gets hoisted into the most powerful position in the American military simply because he's a complete loyalist to Donald Trump. It's pretty disgusting. And, but anyway, listen to this.
So, Mr. Secretary, can you explain how exactly you misunderstood such a monumental presidential order?
One of many fake news headlines we've dealt with.
Listen to how many times he blames the news. Listen to how many times all he does is deflect. The media is liars. The media is liars. Everything everyone says is a lie. All of it's a lie. We're the only ones telling the truth. Everyone in the nation is lying. All the reporters, all the investigative journalists, everyone's a lie. It's like, watch how many times he does it.
So President Trump told you to halt military aid to Ukraine on January 30th?
As is often the case, highly ideological and very ill-informed reporters love to speculate about things they know nothing about.
Oh my God, dude. There are data logs. There are data logs that show that the aid was cut off.
In order to spear President Trump and myself.
So it sounds like actually the reporting is correct, because I will say, if it wasn't a mistake, why did aid restart only a few days later?
Right. And they know this because the actual people who ship and deliver the aid keep logs. Everything is documented. They're reporting on what's documented. She's not talking about what she saw on a headline or something that she heard on social media. She got the logs straight from the people who do the shipping of the aid.
Again, we would take complete issue with what would some call reporting and others call a hatchet job.
Susan, they are incapable of answering yes or no. We have a reality TV star president and a Fox News personality as our Secretary of Defense. You ain't lying. You are not lying. That's exactly what's going on, and it's despicable.
So why did aid start just a couple days later?
I'm saying the reporting is inaccurate, ma'am.
I mean, over and over and over and over again. Anything that says anything bad about me or my administration is just reporting lies. We're perfect. We don't do anything wrong. It's just lies. Everything.
I don't think that's correct. So let's move on to your managerial and comment.
She's laughing because she knows.
I think we can see why you misunderstood the president, because you're obviously misunderstanding my questions.
Ouch.
Less than a month into the job, you fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, CQ Brown, and the chief of naval operations, Lisa Franchetti, without cause. And to this day, you still have not provided an adequate explanation for removing them. As far as I can tell, you fired CQ Brown because he was black and Lisa Franchetti because she is a woman. So nearly 4 months later, we still don't have a new nominee for Chief of Naval Operations. News reports, and you can contest it, but I'd love to hear your answer, say that you haven't nominated someone because qualified admirals keep turning the position down. So tell me, Mr. Secretary, when will Congress receive your nomination for the next chairman of the next chief of naval operations?
Ma'am, with all due respect, I would suggest not believing every headline you read.
With all due respect, I'd like your nomination. When will we see it?
There has not a single admiral or any military official has turned down a position that's been.
So when will we see your nominee for the Chief of Naval Operations?
In due time, for all the right reasons.
Again, I think we've seen the managerial incompetence. Okay, let's move on to budgetary incompetence. You missed the deadline to submit a draft defense budget to Congress, which makes it impossible for us to complete our work on the NDAA or appropriations, and makes it more likely you'll receive delays in funding you need for new acquisitions, programs, and other priorities. Additionally, you're blowing money on poorly conceived operations and vanity projects for President Trump. Retrofitting the Qatari jet to serve as Air Force One will cost about $400 million.
Can you believe that? $400 million they're going to spend of our tax dollars to retrofit a $400 million plane that they just got for free as a gift from the Qataris. I mean, this is the most corrupt administration in American history.
The parade in D.C. this weekend will cost upwards of $40 million. Your bombing campaign in Yemen cost about $1 billion, and a week later they were having missile strikes in Israel. Your operations in L.A. will cost tens of millions of dollars, and you claim to be cutting costs at the Pentagon, but all I see are wasted dollars better spent addressing our most pressing threats like China. So, Mr. Secretary, what priorities have you cut funding for to pay for these projects?
Ma'am, I would just say your list left off securing the southern border.
So, Mr. Secretary, what priorities have you cut funding for to pay for these projects?
We make trade-offs every day, and I would imagine what we want to spend on is quite different than what the previous administration did.
Well, I think
yeah, because the previous administration didn't want to retrofit brand new $400 million planes that were gifts from a country that's not even an ally. Oh my God.
Those changes quickly, and
their answer is the media lies and everything's Biden's fault. That's this administration. This administration literally has two answers to every question. The media lies and it was Biden's fault. That's literally their answer for every single thing that they're asked. Another clip I want to show. This is one of my favorite. I love Seth Moulton from Massachusetts. Those of you who don't know him, he is another excellent Democrat. He is incredible. And I've been watching this guy because he's got some potential. And he's not one of those crazy, type far crazy, college kid, you know what I'm talking about. He's not one of those, but he is extremely on top of what's going on with this administration. But I want you to listen to him question Pete Hegseth about the military leak on the app Signal. And listen to this. This is just...
Or an unclassified system?
Well, as you know, having served yourself, any way that the Secretary of Defense communicates or provides information in and of itself is classified and not to be discussed.
So what was the classification marking of the launch time when it was sent to you? Because DoD regulations require information on classified systems to be marked.
What was the classification mark time?
Yeah. What was the classification marking? Because
again,
DoD
classifications of any information in an ongoing operation that was successful are not things that would be disclosed in a public forum.
You can very well disclose whether or not it was classified. It's not classified to disclose whether or not it was classified. And in fact, DoD regulations state that any classified information has to be labeled with its classification. Was it classified secret or top secret?
What's not classified is that it was an incredibly successful mission against the Houthis.
Okay, so it was classified. So are you trying to say that the information was unclassified?
I'm not trying to say anything.
That's what I thought. You're not saying that. So you took classified information from Central Command that had a classification marking on it, because that's what's required by DoD regulations, and you put it on an unclassified system. So we're going to get a report in a few days from the DoD Inspector General. And if the DoD Inspector General finds what is pretty obvious, both to you smiling there in the witness seat and to all of us up here, that the information was, in fact, classified, do you plan to take any accountability for that?
As I pointed out at the time...
you said that accountability is back. Does that not apply to you?
As I said at the time, Congressman, there were no names, targets, locations, units, routes, sources, methods, no classified information.
Okay, so if it comes back that it is classified, will you take accountability or not? You've already admitted that it was classified because everything you get from CENTCOM is classified. You just explained that to me. That's how you justified not answering the question.
Not what I said. I didn't confirm any classification or
Okay, so if it is
what
confirmed,
I know is that
will you take
everything
accountability?
I share, everything I talk about,
Mr. Secretary, does accountability apply to you or not?
is classified whether I talk or not.
Does it apply to you or not?
Does what apply to me?
Accountability.
Does what apply to me or not? I'm sorry, did you not hear him use the word accountability about 50 times already? He asks him again. Oh, what a pathetic joke this guy is.
You said accountability is back at the Secretary.
And you know what? The Houthis were held accountable for shooting at our ships.
I'm just asking if it applies to
very
you.
Successfully.
I'm not asking about the
previous
Houthis.
administration let our ships get shot at, and nothing was done about it. And thankfully, because of the skill...
But that doesn't change the fact that you put classified war plans in a public app and accidentally shared them with a journalist. You incompetent shitbag.
Courage of our troops on the
battlefield. I'm just asking about
we
I reclaim my
put them in a place where they called for a ceasefire.
I reclaim my time. I'm just asking if accountability applies to you. It's a very simple question.
He can't answer a very simple question because they only know how to do two things. They know how to dodge the question by saying Biden, or they know how to dodge the question by saying the media lies. That's all they know how to do. And he's in a corner right now where he can't really refer to Biden for this, and he can't refer to fake news. So he doesn't really know what else to do. He's just stuck. He's like, what do I do? My brain can't function when I can't blame Biden or say that the media lies. I don't know what to do. I don't know for my brain to like be able to make this happen. This is frightening and exhaustingly hilarious. Yeah, you are not kidding, Susan. You are not kidding. Thank you for your comments, by the way, and always sticking with me. I appreciate it.
We use leadership by example.
Of course. Unlike, I serve at the pleasure of the president like everybody else does.
So it only applies to the president, not to you.
I serve at the pleasure.
You talked about the success of the Houthi operation. About how much money did it cost? How much money did you spend on missiles shooting at the Houthis?
Well, you'd have to compare that with what it cost.
I'm just asking how much did it cost?
Divert our shipping lanes around.
I'm told it's several $100 million, maybe close to $1 billion. How many U.S. flagged commercial ships have transited the Red Sea since your so-called successful operation?
Well, thankfully, unlike the previous administration,
the answer is zero.
Military vessels transit.
No. I didn't ask about military vessels. I
which
asked
would
about
be the
commercial
precursor
vessels.
for
how many?
Hear him? Unlike the previous administration, unlike the previous.
commercial vessels?
transit.
It's been several weeks. How many commercial vessels, U.S. flagged, have
Well,
transited the
would
Red
you, Mr. Congressman, put civilian ships
The
through
questions
dam
are not to
before
me,
military
Mr. Secretary,
ships?
they're to you.
We have responsibly put military
The answer
ships
is zero.
through first.
I reclaim my time.
I think the biggest problem with this administration is that they think that their sole existence is to do better than Biden. Like that it's to compare everything that they're doing to the Biden administration. And the truth of the matter is that their job is to serve the public. Period. Every single person in this building that we're looking at right now, they have a job to serve the public, American citizens. Their job is to serve us. That's what they're supposed to do. So the idea that every time they get questioned, because keep in mind, this isn't, and this is where I think a lot of people get things confused. This isn't Seth Moulton questioning Pete Hegseth. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is the people questioning Pete Hegseth through Seth Moulton, because Seth Moulton has a job to represent his constituents. Every single one of these representatives and senators that we see in these videos represents a district. They represent constituents, the constituents of their district. So therefore, when they go to town halls and those constituents yell and scream about things that bother them, their senators and their representatives come and represent their district by asking these questions that their district wants to know the answers to. So what you're seeing is the will of the people. So when Pete Hegseth answers the people of the United States with dodging the answers and blaming Biden and all of these things, he is not holding himself accountable, which seems to be something he doesn't seem to understand based on the fact that he avoided answering that question 50 times. He's not holding himself accountable to the people. He's merely comparing himself and everything he does to the previous administration, while also blaming the media for misrepresenting everything. They're victims. They're victims of this conspiracy of the media that's out there every day lying and lying and lying on them. How long are they going to ride that until the wheels fall off, man? You know what I mean? How long are they going to ride that until the wheels fall off? It makes me wonder. It really does. So, make no mistake about it, man. It's really, like unsettling that we have an administration like this. It's really unsettling.
How many generals and admirals have you fired?
I don't know the exact number, but
You don't know the number. It's 8. Can you explain why any of them were fired? Like, just explain why was...
they all serve at the pleasure of the president. And I think
No, I'm just asking you why.
General Kane is a great example.
I'm just asking you why.
That we
I think
need
you
at
probably
this
learned
time.
at Princeton what why means. Why did you fire him?
They serve at the pleasure of the president, and we
Why
want better
did you
representation
fire
in
him?
each and every of those.
You can't
each and
explain
every
why
one
you
of those
fired any of
places.
them?
Think about it. He fired them. It's his job. The Department of Defense is not supposed to do things the president tells him to do. He's not supposed to fire people that the president told him to fire. That is not how the American government works. Man, this is as scary as it gets. Here's another clip I wanted to show. Jason Crow asks Pete Hegseth some very important questions, but one of them, what separates the United States from its enemies? This is interesting because now we're diving into the fascist state that we're witnessing.
Do you remember this portion of the manual? It says if you've killed 2 innocents, you've set yourself back more than you've moved forward. Do you still agree with that?
I would have to take a look at the manual, but obviously no one in warfare is seeking to kill innocents.
Okay. Because it's important to show why we're different from the enemy. Because we're not the enemy, right? We're different from our adversary. Would you agree with that? We have different morals and different values.
We are not the enemy, sir.
We have different morals and we have different values than the enemy.
We have a code, a uniform code of military justice.
So the answer to
creeds
that is
inside our
yes.
formations that
You're not trying to compare us to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, are you? We're different.
I know the code of the United States military and army that I signed
You
up for.
can't tell me whether we're
Raise my
different?
right hand.
You're not willing to say we're
Of course,
different?
we're different.
Okay, thank you.
It's absurd.
Well, if it's so absurd, why didn't you just answer the question?
That's why I'm trying to reconcile the fact that we learned many of the same lessons as platoon leaders about unit cohesion, making sure that people were included, that we didn't ask people's political affiliation, that we interacted respectfully with civilian populations, that what a leader says matters, that the tone you set matters, that we are not the enemy, that we are different from them, we lead differently, we have different morals. How can I reconcile that experience and those lessons learned from Lieutenant Hegseth to now Secretary Hegseth, where you say things like what you just saw here, making us equivalent on the same standards as our adversaries, doing the same things that ISIS and Al-Qaeda would do? How can you possibly reconcile that?
It's a good question.
I can't. And just the other day down at Fort Bragg in our beloved 82nd Airborne Division, sitting there while we politicize the military and pull our paratroopers into politics, booing elected officials, booing politicians with whom you disagree. It's antithetical to our values, and you, sir,
Gentlemen,
have changed.
time's expired. Chair, now.
It's fascism at its finest, and he didn't say the word, but that's exactly what he was thinking. All right, so here's another. This right here, I really find. I want you to see, once again, how Pete Hegseth squirms and squirms to get out of this one. Like he just...
I want to jump questions right now. Mr. Secretary, on January 6, 2021, rioters and looters attacked federal law enforcement officials, vandalized and destroyed federal government property, and caused an estimated $2.7 billion in damages right here at the Capitol. Would you have sent the National Guard and the Marines in on that day?
Well, unfortunately, President Trump requested the National Guard in advance, and that was...
It took him quite a long time. I'm asking you, as Secretary of Defense, would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day? We had 140 Capitol Police officers injured. One died the next day. Would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines?
As I said, President Trump directed National Guard to be there in advance.
And I think you can...
She's asking him an actual opinionated question. Like, in your opinion, if you were in charge, would you have done it? And he can't answer that. He just wants to keep on jumping to Trump did it. Like as if he's being yelled at for not doing it or like that somebody didn't do it. It's like, that's not the question. The question is, would you have done it? Would you have done it is the question. So beyond the horizon, the fact that I have 10 people viewing me is because I'm a brand new podcaster. There are people who say very similar things to me that have millions of followers. So, you know, I mean, like, if you want to come and run your mouth, like, you're not going to have any impact here. Like, have fun, you know. He did answer. They were being replaced. Oh, my God. Okay, here we go. We got a bunch of Trumpers coming in here now with all their fucking nonsense. Claudia, that isn't the fucking question. Are you aware that that's not the question she asked? Are we talking about what Trump did or didn't do on that fucking day? Or are you people like mentally, like, do you have mental problems? Like, no, but then it's not a truthful debate. It's not a truthful debate if you're not arguing or debating the actual point that is being asked. You're coming in here changing the fucking subject just like Pete Hegseth is doing. Nobody is asking, not one person is asking anything about Trump and what he did or did on January 6th. What he's being asked is if he was in charge that day, what he would have done. That's the question. And he's ducking it. He's ducking it because he illegally called upon the federalization of my state's National Guard. That's what he did. That's what this dude did. That's what this guy did. Illegally called on the federalization of my National Guard in the city I live in by acting like we were a war zone when I'm 20 minutes away from the protests and know that it's a lie and I know that it's a lie, but you want to believe all the bullshit you hear on Fox News or wherever you get your Truth Social or wherever you people get your information from, and you want to try to come here and try to argue this and debate about Trump. I'm not here to talk about Trump and what he did on January 6th. I'm talking about Pete Hegseth and what he just did in my state. So stay on subject, Claudia. No, they weren't. One car was on fire on the first night, and it was a Waymo that got played over and over and over and over and over again. And those were criminals that were apprehended and arrested that had nothing to do with the protests. Any other questions you want to ask? Why don't you go on my channel, Claudia, and go look at the 2 hours of footage that I shot standing in the middle of the protests, showing that there was absolutely nothing going on. Why don't you go do that? Why don't you go do that? Instead, you want to believe the nonsense you're being fed. And that's fine. You could come here and you could talk all your nonsense, but I'm not gonna sit here and feed it. So you guys can comment away with your bullshit. Anyway,
look at the record of how long
reason,
it actually took for him to actually send them in. But it's good to hear that it sounds like you
don't turn Marines onto citizens. You don't turn Marines onto citizens. People have a right to protest. People were protesting. Criminals, like, this is the thing that you guys don't understand. The Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD themselves, issued a statement publicly saying the city was not a war zone, that it was a peaceful protest, that there was a few criminal actors who did some things. They apprehended 50 criminals in the course of 3 days. They only had to shoot 600 rubber bullets in the course of 3 days. They've issued a statement stating all this. They've issued a statement. But you guys do not want to listen to the statement. You guys want to listen to whatever Trump tells you because he is your God. He is your supreme overlord leader. Whatever he tells you and whatever Fox News regurgitates for him, which is state media propaganda, basically like 1930s Germany shit, and they're regurgitating lies for Donald Trump. Rand Paul, a Republican, came out recently and literally stated that Republicans were roasting him because Trump uses taxpayer dollars to pay people to post negative things about people he don't like on social media. He is a propagandist. He is a liar. He is a criminal. He is a multiple, 40-something felons. He was like best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for a decade, on his plane 6 times, proven data. Okay? He is a scumbag and a liar. And if you're coming to my channel because you want to argue that, why? Why? There's plenty of right-wing propaganda you can go listen to that'll tell you what you want to hear. Why are you watching me? Why are you here right now watching this? Why? Because I'm not gonna feed into your comments and your arguments. I'm not gonna do it because you people are nuts. You people are full of absolute conspiracy nonsense that like, let me tell you who you MAGA people are. I'm going to break it down for you. In the 1970s, the 1978, okay, there was a book written called The Turner Diaries by a racist, by an actual Ku Klux Klan member by the name of William Luther Pierce. And in that book, he created a fiction novel where he acted like the Jews were taking over the media and finance because there was a war against white people in the United States, that they were going to do everything that they could to try to get rid of all the whites in the country and some sort of like revenge against Germany. This was what this book was about. Then the John Birch Society decided to take this narrative and run with it. These were crazy fringe lunatics that decided to act like as if this book was some sort of Bible to the truth. And through the years, they were considered crazies and insane, even by the Republicans, even by Ronald Reagan himself. But that wasn't sufficient for them. They needed to make up a lie that the news was liberal propaganda and that everything the news said was a lie and that you needed to listen to these crazy fucking people. And the John Birch Society, funded by Fred Trump, by the way, all facts you can look up and Google, they decided to start financing radio shows, people like Pat Buchanan, people like Rush Limbaugh, people like Glenn Beck, and all these morons to regurgitate basically propaganda. And this has been going on now since the 80s, and then through Alex Jones and so on and so forth. And you people Donald Trump went on Alex Jones's show 3 times because Roger Stone told him that if he went on that show, he would be able to get another 30 people, or another 6 or 7 million Americans around the country to vote for him, simply because they were dejected conspiracy theorists who believed in all this insane nonsense. And that if he went on the Alex Jones show and he fed these people that propaganda, they would vote for him. And that's exactly what he did. And now Donald Trump is continuing to perpetuate this insane propaganda and these insane lies against facts, against science, against truth, against reality. And you people have bought it hook, line, and sinker. You are dealing with a fascist regime. A fascist regime. He has been already told by all 9 Supreme Court judges that he's violated crime or constitutional law after constitutional law after constitutional law repeatedly. He has been found guilty for doing that repeatedly by a 9-9 Supreme Court decisions, 6 of which are Republican Supreme Court members, half of those which were he appointed to the bench. And you people still want to believe that there's some crazy conspiracy theory against your boy Donald Trump, and that all of this is made up, and that all of this, you're losing it, man. You're losing it. You need to wake up. You need to wake up to the truth. And the truth is your country is under siege. You got senators getting arrested for trying to question Homeland Security. You got Trump illegally federalizing. I mean, are you people crazy? Have you not even heard Kristi Noem say out of her own mouth? Did you not hear Kristi Noem say out of her own mouth that back when she was on Fox News and she was the governor of South Dakota and Biden was going to federalize their National Guard, and she came out and said that would be illegal and unconstitutional, and now she's doing it, and you people want to sit there and defend it because you hate brown people? Because you have something against brown people? I've said this on my show many times. I'm going to say it again. People who are undocumented did not commit a crime. It is a civil violation. That is how our laws in the United States work. If you are undocumented in the country, you committed a civil violation. Civil violation, not a crime. So therefore, you have Trump putting military in the streets because people are outraged that he's tear gassing restaurants and arresting people who've been here for 15 years, who are cooks and pizza people and people who have work trucks and work on farms and have been picking blueberries for years and years and years, have no criminal record, and they're being nabbed and shipped. And the people are standing up to that, and you want to defend it? You want to defend it? That's what you guys want to do? No, they broke federal law. Nick Gurr, you're an idiot. You are an idiot. They did not break a federal law whatsoever. You're a moron, a very poorly educated dipshit. Because the truth is, if you are undocumented in the United States, it is a civil violation. It's a civil violation. Period. End of story. That's the bottom line. If the only thing you did, if you're not a criminal and you have no criminal record and you've committed no violent crimes and you've done nothing illegal, and the only thing wrong you did was not file the paperwork necessary to become documented in this country, you are guilty of a civil violation, not federal law. So I got news for you, buddy. You're wrong, and you have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
You would have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day in which the insurrection was taking place right here at the Capitol. Mr. Secretary, during your confirmation hearing, you failed to deny the conclusion that you would carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs. So let me be direct. Given what we are seeing across the country right now, would you carry out or issue an order by the president for our military to fire upon protesters actively engaging in their civil right to exercise free speech, their First Amendment rights? Would you give that order from the president?
I assume you're insinuating what's going on in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't call
Not just
that a
Los
peaceful
Angeles. If we
protest.
take a look at protests
How
throughout
about just saying, no, I wouldn't give that order? He can't do it.
the country, it's a simple question. If directed by
Very
the
simple.
president, would you order our military to fire upon protesters? Simple yes or no.
Ma'am, we have, as you know, And as this committee knows, we have standard rules of engagement that are in place that give guidance to our troops, and they abide by them.
I'm asking what you would do. Again, you said you serve at the pleasure of the president. Is that not true?
I do serve at the pleasure.
So if the president told you to shoot people in the legs.
George, undocumented people in the United States pay over $80 billion a year in taxes, or it's $90 billion a year in taxes that they don't get any services from because they're undocumented and they're afraid they'll get deported if they try to even appear anywhere at any service that they could get for their taxes. They spend over $500 billion of GDP is undocumented immigrants in the United States with their consumer spending. And on top of that, it's going to cost the United States taxpayer $250 billion to try to deport all 12 million of them. So you're a moron. And the fact that you think that they're in here and that they're going to be like, like they're illegal, like they're just leeching off the system. Dude, you're poorly informed. You're an absolute idiot. And, that's fine. I mean, I expect this. I know that there's a lot of like neck-bearded, like incel, angry, old, pathetic white men that are just dipshits all over YouTube. So I suspect, and I kind of already know that there's going to be a bunch of you coming in my chat and trying to argue with me and stuff, but you're wasting your time. You're absolutely wasting your time.
Would you do so? Now, you failed to answer this question as well in your confirmation hearing when asked by members of the Senate.
Because I refuse to accept a false hypothetical that's attempting to put me in a corner and make it look like a representative.
At a time when we have more Marines and national...
We just want to confirm that you're actually your own person and not Trump's puppet that will do whatever Trump asks you to do, like everybody else, like the Department of Justice Pam Bondi, like the fact that he put Kash Patel in charge of the FBI, who wrote a book calling him a king. Okay, we want checks and balances because that's what America stands for. Well, when you're a real patriot and not the fascists that are raiding my comment section right now. If you're a fascist and an authoritarian piece of shit, and you're like, we stand with ICE, we want them to like violate due process and laws because that's what we want because our feelings matter. You are a problem for this country. You're a terrorist organization of authoritarian fascist pieces of human shit. And you're the problem with this country. And when the bullets start flying, believe you me, my friend, I'm not afraid. I am not afraid. If civil war breaks out, I'm ready to go. Because if you think Democrats like me don't have guns, I got news for you. You can look up my criminal record. I ain't scared of none of you fucking fascist pieces of shit. Your whole movement is going to die. Because it's built on a house of cards of social media propaganda and bullshit.
Guard in Los Angeles than we do in Syria and Iran alone. I don't think this is a hypothetical. This is an actual situation that we are dealing with right now. So again, I will ask the question in the last 14 seconds I have. Would you order our military to shoot at their fellow countrymen if ordered by the president?
I think it's interesting that for 4 years, insurrection was the left's favorite
I think we know your
word,
answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Right. Well, that's because it actually was an insurrection. January 6th was an insurrection of people raiding the Capitol building because they believed in a lie that Trump was scammed out of an election. They believed in a fucking hoax conspiracy theory that had millions of dollars being pushed behind it. And it was a complete and nonsensical lie. And it's already been debunked by the law. Even Donald Trump himself couldn't admit that he was frauded out of the election when he was put in front of a court. See, when he was put in front of the media, that's the thing that I think people don't realize. The law is amazing because the law, you can't lie. In a court, you can't lie. Why do you think Pete Hegseth chooses his words so wisely? Because he's sitting in a legal room where he had to be under oath and he has to watch what he says. So when Donald Trump was in a courtroom and was asked by a judge, are you saying that you were frauded out of the election? We're not saying that. Him and that idiot attorney who represented him, the New York former governor, whatever his name was, can't remember it at the moment. That idiot, sweat guy, the guy who sweated in his fake eyebrows ran down the side of his face. But yeah, Donald Trump, his lawyers were asked in a courtroom, were you frauded out of the election? And they said no, because they knew in a courtroom you can't say things that ain't true. You can't say things that aren't backed up by evidence. And, that's why I love the law. That's why I love America. I love America because America is a system of laws. And the law, like the Constitution and the checks and balances, and the fact that we have the legislative branch and the executive branch, and then of course the judicial branch, all of these three branches formulate our government. And nobody, when you're a president, you don't get to be king. You don't get to be king. You don't get to be king when you're the president. You have to follow laws, and you have to follow laws. You have to follow the rules of checks and balances. If you want to get things through, you have to go through an act of Congress, and you have to have the Supreme Court rule. And that's the bottom line. And that's what I love about America, is that no matter how emotional and upset MAGA people get, no matter how much they cry about their feelings and about how upset that they are because they feel a certain way, they feel like immigrants are criminals, they feel like they all need to go home, their emotions are what matter. It's kind of like, those really hardcore leftists that shout you down and like say things to you like, you offended me and you should be canceled. And like those people, MAGA is exactly those people, just on the opposite side. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, I don't care about the law. They don't deserve due process because those are my feelings. You know what I mean? It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And that's the way, but MAGA is like, a cult of degenerate retards. And basically like there's big money. There's a lot of money in feeding MAGA people their narrative. I actually, when I was going to start my podcast, I had a conversation with a couple of friends of mine, right? And one of them says to me, "You're going to make a political podcast?" I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Are you going to be like one of those, are you going to go full Democrat? Are you going to be like in the middle? Like, are you going to be MAGA?" And I said, no. I said, I'm going to try to do my best to just go by the compass of the law with everything, and if somebody's violating the law, that's what but he says to me, he goes, "Dude, you'd make a fortune if you went MAGA. You'd make a fortune." And I said, I know. I'm white and I have blue eyes and all this stuff. And I come from utter poverty. I come from the streets. My mom was a prostitute and a criminal and in and out of jail. And we lived homeless. I slept outside with my mom in alleyways. I mean, we had a pretty crazy life. I mean, there was a film made about my life that won awards. I'm not even kidding you. That's a true story. You can Google that. And I come from utter poverty. And they were like, "Man, if you made a MAGA channel." And I said, "Yeah, but the thing is, I just can't support a movement that I don't believe in. And I can't do it." And this is a true story. So years ago when I was a hip hop artist, I made a lot of music back in the day, and I had a record deal, so on and so forth. And recently a billionaire from my home state, because I'm from Maine. I might live in California now, but I'm from Maine. I'm a Mainer, okay? So a billionaire real estate developer in Maine is very good friends with Donald Trump Jr. And so a buddy of mine from Maine that I know sat in a meeting with this real estate developer who also apparently knows me. I don't know who he is, but he knows who I am. And Don Jr. And he brought my music up. And he said, "Have you ever heard of a rap kid from our state? He used to call himself Poverty." And Don Jr.'s like, "No." And he's like, "Let me show you something." And he played him one of my songs. This is what I was told. That somebody told me this, right? That I know very well. And he said Don Jr. liked what he heard and was like, "Oh man, that's some pretty cool stuff," or whatever. They didn't talk long about it. It was short, or at least this is what I was told. And so the dude says to me, my friend who was in the room, he's like, "What would you do if Don Jr. became like a super fan of yours and he called you up and he said, 'We want to play your music at our rallies'?" I said, "I would tell him he can't. Straight up, full stop. You can't fucking play my song at your rallies." And it's because I'm principled. And the truth of the matter is that whether you come here a MAGA supporter or a hardcore liberal person, or someone who's more in the middle, like the 80% of American normal people, or maybe you're someone who's like a Bernie Sanders supporter, you kind of support that, like billionaires should pay taxes, you know, things like that. Regardless of what your political leanings are, whether you agree or disagree with anything that I say, I can emphatically tell you that I'm principled and that I'm going to stand on business with what I believe. And that's all I have to say. You can accept that or not, but you're not going to come in here and change my mind unless we have a real political debate. And by that, I mean, talk policy. I want you to bring up policy. I want you to bring up legislation. I want you to bring up actual names of politicians, laws that were passed that have caused certain things to happen, that have caused your life to be transformed in a bad way. And what I often get from people when I ask them anything, like if they say, oh, I can't stand Democrats, I can't stand liberals, they're the enemy. They're the enemy of the people. They're the enemy of America, which is really bad to say, because in a democracy, you have a two-party system. And for you to believe that the other side is completely your enemy and that the enemy of the people makes you inherently an authoritarian fascist, because it basically says that no, one party is right and everything should be done the way this party says things should be done, right? And so that's not good in any way. But when I ask these people, what makes you say liberals are your enemy? Like, what makes you say that? Can you explain to me through legislation, through policy, and actually name the specific politicians who passed this legislation, who passed these policies, and how they affected your life on an economic level, which is very important, or on a healthcare level, you know, like some kind of an educational level? Did it affect your schools? Did it affect, like, I want to hear that type of information. Maybe you lost your home because of it. You know, like if you pointed to Bill Clinton and you said Bill Clinton allowed the Goldman Sachs guys, which he did, to get rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, which essentially allowed for banks to play with people's money on Wall Street, and that this resulted in directly Wall Street doing mortgage-backed security scams and causing 7 million people to lose their homes, I would be right there with you. And I would say, you're right. Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, Bill Clinton did do that. He did do that, and it took a while for the effects to happen, but 7 million people did lose their homes. And that's why I protested against that on Occupy Wall Street. And that's why I stood up against that, because it is true that Bill Clinton did do that. And it did happen. And that's a reality. Just like I'm here protesting and being an activist against what Trump is doing. Because to me, when I see people violating the law or hurting everyday people, hurting everyday families, regardless of color, regardless of where they come from, even white people in West Virginia, I am here to be a person who speaks for the people who don't have much, because I am of the belief that you should question people with more power than you, and you should defend people with less power than you. Those are my beliefs, and I'm principled in that, and I stand on business with that. So whether or not you agree with what I'm saying or not, Nick Gurr, I'm Mexican American. Am I a racist? What do you mean? Who called you? Are you talking to me or somebody in the comments? Nick, are you saying that to me or somebody in the comments? Because I didn't call anybody racist. Nick, can you just tell me, are you arguing with Lance right now, or are you saying that I said you're a racist? Oh, right. Yeah. Your name is Nick Gurr. Right. Wow. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure, honestly, though, in all fairness, Susan, I don't think that he made that name because he's racist. You know what I mean? He probably just made it because Mexican people say that word like black people say that word. You know what I mean? Mexican people use that word as freely as black people. And I've asked most black people if they have a problem with Mexican people using that word, and they say no. So as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't think that makes him a racist. He's an idiot, and he has a name that clearly doesn't reflect. See, this is the thing about these people, right? They don't actually, my name is Tommy Kane. I'm here saying the things that I'm saying right now to everybody under my real name. His name is Nick Gurr, which we all know why he put those two words together, and he's not even talking under his real identity. Think about it. Imagine trying to represent a movement that you can't even stand on business under your real name. And this is what I have found has happened. All these people that are in chat rooms, that are on Instagram comments, that are in Facebook comments, that are all over YouTube comments, all these people that support this movement don't even reveal their names. Even the people that are out abducting immigrants and shipping them out of the country illegally are wearing masks over their face. They don't even reveal who they are. Think about that for a minute. By the way, to your question, Susan, I am not going to go sing tonight. I know you know that I typically sing on Friday nights, but I'm not going to do it because right now this podcast is 100% more important than going and doing that this evening. So I ran late tonight. It is what it is. But I want to play this clip for everybody because this is what, when we talk about people who give an opinion on something, I like educated opinions. You know, I ask a plumber what's wrong with my toilet. I ask an auto mechanic what's wrong with my car. I ask a heart surgeon what's wrong with my heart because I like to ask people that are experts in their field about things. I don't really listen to like idiotic jerk-offs who go and make a fucking podcast that like, you know, these people listen to, like video gamers that are sitting around talking about their views on politics and somehow they're the ones that it's fucking unbelievable. I like to listen to people that are experts and that's where I like to go. So I want you guys to listen to this video right now and let's talk about this.
I'm a historian of totalitarianism.
I look at fascist rhetoric.
I've been thinking about the sources of the worst kinds of history for a quarter of a century.
Experts say the constitutional crisis is here now.
The Trump administration deporting hundreds of men without a trial.
A massive purge at the FBI to make people afraid of speaking out against him.
I'm leaving to the University of Toronto because I want to do my work without the fear that I will be punished for my words.
Donald Trump is currently attacking colleges for not changing their curriculums. He is trying to force universities to change their curriculums. Unbelievable. Another thing Donald Trump is doing that people should be aware of is he is threatening to take law licenses away from law firms who represent people that are suing him. He's abusing his power as the president to revoke law licenses from law firms that are representing people who are suing him. He's also threatening to take media licenses away from news organizations that give stories about him he doesn't like. But no, he's not a fascist. No, he's not a fascist whatsoever. Anybody who supports this is the most un-American, non-patriotic piece of shit in the world. You're garbage. You're fucking trash.
The lesson of 1933 is you get out sooner rather than later.
I've spent a lot of time in the last decade trying to prepare people if Trump were elected once, let alone twice.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
I did not flee Trump, but if people are going to leave the United States or leave American universities, there are reasons for that. One thing you can definitely learn from Russians
is that it's essential to set up centers of resistance in places of relative safety.
We want to make sure that if there is a political crisis in the U.S., that Americans are organized.
We've just gotten started. You haven't even seen anything yet. It's all just kicking in.
My colleagues and friends, they were walking around and saying, we have checks and balances, so let's inhale, checks and balances, exhale, checks and balances. And I thought, my God, we're like people on the Titanic saying our ship can't sink. We've got the best ship, we've got the strongest ship, we've got the biggest ship, our ship can't sink. And what you know as a historian is that there is no such thing.
Are you guys saying that, are you guys literally trying to claim that, What are you saying is not true? Someone called me a soy boy. Oh, God, you fucking idiots. You fucking idiots. It's always somebody who I'd knock right the fuck out in 2 seconds, too. You're such a little bitch. You come on here with your little fake account name and you call people soy boys. Why? Because I don't agree with you? So I'm a soy boy? I'd knock all your fucking teeth out. You're a fucking pussy. Shut the fuck up, you fucking clown. The leftist Marxist, Joe Rogan, everyone is hoping for. Yeah, Richard Jensen, I'm a leftist Marxist because I say things you don't agree with. So this is why, Claudia. Do you see? Do you see the reason why I don't even bother? Because there's always just idiots coming in here running their fucking mouth. Little cum stains with their comments about stupid bullshit. It's unbelievable. Mike S. I love the poorly educated, and they love me back. You're damn right. You are damn right, buddy. He did say that, and it's true. Yeah, let me, bro. I'm easy. I'm easy. Shut the fuck up, you keyboard warrior. You're so tough that you had to come in and talk all kinds of shit and call people soy boys in a chat. You're a clown. You're a clown, dude. You're a clown, bro. I'm from the streets, bro. Like, are you serious? Like, you must be crazy. Don't get this fucking nerdy ass old white face fucked up. I was born and raised in the streets. Like, you're a clown, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I can't stand it. It's like you guys are such little pussies on the internet. Little mouth runners on the internet. Come and find me, bro. Come and find me, bro. Fucking idiot. Go smoke your meth with your fucking herpes riddled girlfriend and go sit in a motel room and live off some more of my tax money, you fucking joke. Oh, here we go. We got the Mexican guy who thinks he's tough because he's Mexican and I'm not because I'm white. It's all right. Dude, I'll tell you what, Nick. If you're so fucking tough, why don't you use your real name, coward? Why don't you use your real name, you fucking coward? Why don't you use your real name? Why are you so anonymously running your mouth if you're such a tough guy? You think I give a shit that you're Mexican? For all I know, you're not even Mexican. You're probably a fucking 12-year-old Asian kid like, on his mom's computer pretending he's a Mexican. You're probably like some fucking like little kid on his mom's computer. Anyway, let's watch actual serious people talk about serious, educated things.
As a ship that can't sink.
The golden age of America has only just begun.
Lance, is the volume on this right? Shoot me a comment. Let me know if this is, if you're hearing this. Yeah, okay.
America has long had an exceptionalist narrative. Fascism can happen elsewhere, but not here.
But talking about American exceptionalism is basically a way to get people to fall into line. If you think that there's this thing out there called America, and it's exceptional, that means that you don't have to do anything. Whatever is happening, it must be freedom. And so then what your definition of freedom is just gets narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed, and soon you're using the word freedom, but what you're talking about is authoritarianism.
Correct.
Toni Morrison warned us.
The descent into a final solution is not a jump. It's one step. And then another. And then another.
We are seeing those steps accelerated right now.
There are some words, in Russian in particular, that I feel help us to understand what's happening in the United States.
By the way, this is a woman who is literally a leading expert on fascism. All three of them are leading experts on fascism. They study all kinds of history with where fascist regimes have taken over democracies. So they're literally the most qualified people in the country to be talking about stuff like this. Some of the most qualified.
Because we now have those phenomena. Произвол. It's the idea that the powers that be can do anything they want to you, and you have no recourse. This not knowing who is next creates a state of paralysis in society.
The Tufts student whose visa was removed because she co-authored an article in the Tufts student newspaper.
These are regular people in regular hoodies walking up on a woman. They don't announce themselves. They have no badge. They have nothing that says who they are or who they represent. This woman is fucking terrified. Am I being attacked? Am I being raped, assaulted? What is going on here? This is ICE. Literally, this is ICE grabbing someone off the street.
I thought, what would I do if guys in masks tried to grab my student? Would I scream? Would I run away? Would I try to pull the mask off?
Oh, that guy over there got a badge. This guy right here has got a badge. But the people that walked up and approached her, nothing. They got masks over their faces. There was a woman recently that was sexually assaulted because a guy pretended to be ICE. And she didn't know the difference. And then he punched her in the face. And luckily she didn't get assaulted, but, well, not sexually assaulted, but she did get physically assaulted. And then there was just recently a store that was robbed because a guy came in and he said, immigration. And he dressed up with some bulletproof vest and a mask over his face. And everybody thought he was immigration. And then he zip tied the woman, the owner of the store's hands behind her back, and then robbed the place blind. That's what happened because of this shit. Because this is what they're doing. I mean, it's appalling. It's disgusting.
Would I try to videotape the scene? Would I try to pull the guys off of her? Maybe I would get scared and run away. The truth is, I don't know. Not knowing terrified me.
It's a deliberate act of terror. It's not necessary. It's just being done to create a spirit of us and them.
It is. It's being done to create a spirit of us versus them, and it's also being done to exhibit a level of cruelty. MAGA people are cruel. They're cruel. They're shitty human beings. Like, they like to be cruel. They like to be like name calling, like the kid that came in here and called me a soy boy and all that shit. They're just cruel. Like, they just thrive. They're such insecure, fucking feeble, weak, what's the word I'm looking? Inferiority complex. Like, they're just weak, inferiority complex ass bitches. You know, they're soft. They're just fucking babies. Like, a video game comes out and the fucking company puts like something in there so that somebody doesn't have to put a gender identifier on the character, and they flip out. They lose their shit over it. You know, they're just babies. They're just like Donald Trump. See, Donald Trump is a reflection of what is a fucking joke of a guy. Like, he's not a real man, you know, like his body looks like a fucking herpes blister that popped, you know, like he's fucking out of shape. You know, he's never seen the inside of a fucking gym to save his life. And he talks about, oh, I grab girls by the pussy and all this type of shit. And he's a fucking joke. He's a worm. The only reason why he's ever gotten laid was because he had money. And he was always in. Of course, Melania, his wife, he met her when she was a young girl on Epstein's plane. He met his wife on Epstein's jet. That's out there. He met his wife on Epstein's jet. This is the most pathetic guy in the world. He's a disgrace. And he wants to have vengeance on everyone who's ever was disloyal to him. He wants to use his power to abuse people. But what real men know that soft, feeble, weak, pathetic, insecure, inadequate males don't understand is that real men, real masculinity is having control over yourself, not trying to assert dominance and control over others. And that's why it's like, you know, these guys, they're so loud. They're so loud about their beliefs that women should be, you know, put in their place, and that, you know, all this shit, and that good, get rid of them. I don't care. They're illegals. Who cares that they worked here? Who cares? They're criminals. They don't deserve due process. Fuck them. Blah, blah, blah. They're cruel, mean, weak, inadequate, pathetic, insecure, inferiority complex having jokes of men. They're inadequate males. Think about it, right? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is fucking jacked. He was a professional football player. He was a super successful actor. He has done so much for the world, communities, kids all over the world. And he's fucking Diesel, right? If Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wanted to kick the shit out of you and rip you limb from limb, he could. But he would choose not to. He would choose to be a decent person. He would choose to spend his time trying to do great things for the world and people around him. Donald Trump is like a busted open pimple who is disgusting and out of shape and pathetic and always has been. And for those of you who are my age or older, you remember what a joke Trump was in the fucking 80s when everybody was like laughing at him because he was broke. When what was her name? Barbara, the famous, somebody help me out in the comments. The famous reporter, Barbara, oh my God, she's a legend, and I can't remember her freaking name right now. Barbara, what was her name? Walters. Thank you. When Barbara Walters called out Trump in front of the whole world in the 80s. And I remember because I'm actually, I'm in my late 40s. So I remember like when Trump was a joke because he was fucking bankrupt and didn't really have any money. And he's just a scammer. He's a guy that's like, he built buildings in New York and he ripped off all these construction workers repeatedly. He's never been a fan of the working people, but he somehow manipulated. And the reason why he was able to successfully manipulate these young men into believing that he is the exemplar of masculinity and as he points to the liberals and he says, look at those guys. They want you all to be gay. They want you all to be gay. They look at that. They want a trans kid to play sports. That's what they're going to do. They're going to turn you all into transvestites. They want you all to become like that. That's what they want. They want to completely like, and he's like, look at me. I'm a man. I'm this and that. We're the Republicans. We're the masculine side, right? And then, of course, you have the gym bros that come out and they use Instagram. We're working out in the gym because we're men. We support Trump because that's what men do. Real men support Trump and all this fucking stupid ass shit. And these young men have bought into it because these young men are soft. They're weak. A lot of them didn't grow up with a father. It's sad. A lot of them can't get girls. A lot of them haven't seen the inside of a vagina in a long time. They don't know what it's like to get chicks. It's sad. They become incels. They sit on the internet. They troll people in comments. They do all this stuff because they have these inferiority complexes. And it's kind of sad. And then what happens is that instead of teaching these people, which is one of the reasons why, even though Jordan Peterson, I think, has kind of lost his fucking marbles lately, I supported Jordan early on because I felt like he had a real, genuine message for young men. And a lot of that message was good. It was a good message because it was like trying to explain to them to hold themselves accountable, to become disciplined, to hold yourself accountable, right? And somehow this guy who has no discipline, I mean, look at him, and he doesn't hold himself accountable for anything. He only knows two answers, just like all the rest of the Republicans. The media is lying and Joe Biden. Every time you ask Trump about anything, anytime you ask a MAGA person about anything, they have two answers: the lying media and Joe Biden. That's it. Nothing you say has any merit because that's Joe Biden's fault. Everything is Joe Biden's fault, and anything that's not Joe Biden's fault never happened because the media just made it up and the media is a liar. Everything's the media is lying and it's Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. If you say, well, hey, Donald Trump did this, right? They're like, but what about Biden? What about Biden? It's not like, well, let me look at this rationally and actually try to think about whether or not this is a good thing that the president did this or not. It's just, well, you're Joe Biden. And it's because, and I feel sorry for these weak inadequate men, but they were basically fed a delusional lie and basically kind of fed a narrative. And a lot of people started hopping on the bandwagon. Your Ben Shapiro's and your Andrew Tates and your fucking, your Charlie Kirks and all these other fucking idiots. They started hopping on this bandwagon like, man, we can make a lot of money off these fucking incel, neck-bearded ass, fucking weak-ass, pathetic men because they're scared and they're broke and they have no money and they can't get girls and they're angry about the world and they want to blame somebody. And we're going to help them. We're going to teach them. We're going to give them someone to blame. And in return, we're going to get their viewership. We're going to get they're going to support us. They're going to buy our merchandise. They're going to fucking come pull the lever for us. They're going to come support. And that's what happened. That's what happened. We live in a world where MAGA people think Donald Trump is a man and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a bitch because he leans left politically. How the fuck are you working out every day to Jim Bro videos that are like, Trump, pump me up, MAGA, and then supporting a guy who looks like a failed loaf of bread? Like, how are you doing that? How are you doing that? It doesn't even make any fucking sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense, man. I mean, I could understand if Trump looked like Hulk Hogan, like in his prime or some shit, and you guys were like talking about like the masculinity, that you represent the masculine side. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, are you serious? Have any of you ever seen how big Cory Booker is? Who do you think would win in a fight between Cory Booker and Donald Trump? But yet your narrative is that like you're the macho people and the left are the soy boys. That's your narrative? That you're on the right side of history because you're masculine and testosterone fueled? You guys are such a fucking joke. And it's just like, I don't know, man.
Продажность. It's a word in Russian for corruption, but it's larger than corruption. It refers to a kind of existential state in which not only everything but everyone can be bought or sold.
Critics are calling this a quid pro quo deal between Adams and President Trump.
I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza.
He made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million.
There's an expression in Polish. I found myself at the very bottom, and then I heard knocking from below. In Russian, that gets abbreviated to there is no bottom.
We cannot allow a handful of communist radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws.
What starts to matter is not what is concealed, but what has been normalized. There's no limit to the depravity.
President Trump did not rule out the possibility of a third term.
And the sadism.
The White House released this video titled ASF.
This is the other thing too, is that like Donald Trump's third term thing was what he does is he deliberately did that to get everybody in the media that's on the other side to flip out and have you not looking at all this nonsense that he's doing. He does it all the time. He does it on a constant basis. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. Oh, I'm looking at some of these comments. Wow. You guys are getting outnumbered in here, huh? Wow. I'm reading some of these comments and I'm like, you guys are just so stupid. All right. Thank you, Lance, for defending democracy and defending the Constitution and a country that I love, in America that I grew up in and that I love, and I want my son to grow up in it. And, I don't want criminals here any more than anybody else. And I think that it's so pathetic. These people are just so pathetic that this guy is literally becoming a fascist dictator and taking over the country, and they support it. It's sad. But when the Civil War pops off, their heads are going to get shot right off. They're going to get shot right off by the militias. We're going to have militias in the streets. And we're going to do them the same thing that we had to do to Britain during the American Revolution. They're not going to last long. They're going to get their heads popped right off. And And that's the bottom line. You're anti-American. You support a fascist regime. You're anti-American, and at some point when the Civil War pops off, which I think it will here pretty soon, I mean, I hope you're ready to really stand on business. I certainly hope I hope all that machoism and tough guy shit doesn't just get limited to you talking shit on a computer screen. I really hope so. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, says the guy, says Nick, says the guy, I got to put my money where my mouth is, says the guy who's anonymous on the internet. You have no idea. You just have no idea. You literally have no idea, man. You have absolutely no idea, bro. You just have absolutely no idea, man. The largest protest in American history is going to be on one of them on American soil tomorrow. I'm going to be live shooting footage of it. I had some other stuff that I was going to clip, but this has just gone on too long. But you know, I got to say, I really appreciate the right-wingers coming in here and giving me views. I appreciate the views. And you know, views are good. Views help. I appreciate your support, Nick. You took off your glass. You think I took my glasses off to be tough? Okay, you gotta go. You're a fucking idiot. It's time for you to go. You have got to go. You're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot, bro. Like, I don't really know what to tell you. Like, you... What was the other video that I was going to show? Oh, I was going to do... I was going to do a video on Iraq and Iran. I will do that tomorrow. I have a whole segment I'm going to do on it because there's a lot of stuff I really want to break down about what I think is going to happen with that. I'm a little concerned about that. I'm more concerned about that than even anything going on in the country, to be honest. Even though I am very concerned about the fascist regime in America right now, I'm very concerned about Iran attacking Israel and their partnership with BRICS, with Russia and China. And I'm going to talk about that. And also, I'm going to go over the big, beautiful bill. I'm actually going to pull it up, the actual bill, and I'm going to go through section by section, and we're going to break down the law behind that bill. Instead of it being a bunch of people being emotional and just talking about whatever about it, we're going to actually get into the weeds. We're going to talk about it in real time, the actual stuff that's in that bill. So anyways, for those of you that were just watching and just sort of shadow watching, lurking, whatever, I appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I will be live again tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. I appreciate everything, all you guys. Nick, I have stood with Israel throughout the entire thing. I have stood with Israel. But I said this yesterday, and I'll say this to you before I drop. If you were hanging out in a bar and you were with your best friend and he had a girl with him, and some rando came up and squeezed his girl's ass, so he turns around and punches the dude. Obviously, you're in support of that, right? You're in support of your friend punching that dude in the face. You're like, fuck yeah, this fucking guy grabbed his girlfriend's ass, right? So, you don't drink, I don't drink either. I'm just using it as an analogy. So, imagine you're in a bar. Okay, you don't drink, well, you're in a restaurant. You're with your buddy who's got his girlfriend with him. A guy walks in, grabs her ass. So, your buddy punches the dude, and you're obviously in support of it. You're like, yeah, so let's say that guy has some friends. You tell his friends, hey, man, I'm supporting him on this. You better fucking let these two duke it out because I'm with him. That fucking piece of shit grabbed his girlfriend's ass, right? And you're supporting him. But now let's say like hours and hours and hours and hours have gone by. The restaurant's closed at this point, and your boy is just bludgeoning this guy over and over and over and over again. His head is melted. It's just blood, liquid, and bone powder all into the fucking thing. He's one maybe inches away from death. And this is hours later. Aren't you going to be kind of at some point like, all right, bro, like, come on, like, let's go, dude. You know what I'm saying? Aren't you going to be like, let's stop? I mean, this is a little too much. Like, you've been beating this guy. That's kind of how I feel about what's going on with Israel.